Perfect. Fantastic. Thank you, Marta. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm going to just put my screen here on full mode so that you can better see it. Does that look good to everyone? Yes, okay, great. So today we're going to talk about how to create your best-selling brand. And the reason why I kind of use that headline, if you want to call it, is because we're going to touch on some library tips. And clearly, when we think of a library, we tend to think of sort of the more traditional. So I want to help you create a best-selling brand that is in your digital library, because obviously this is an important thing for nowadays to conduct our businesses. So I'm going to take us right down. So yeah, welcome MAWBsters or MAWB sisters, I believe, as some people refer to us. As Christine said, who I am, I'm Marta Andrade. I'm the creative conductor at my company, elleseven Design. Elleseven means to guide. It means that you will be guided and to the completion in a harmony. So there's many words that kind of come out of the actual culmination of the company word, which is part of the branding that I do offer to people as well. I help them really get down to the foundation of how to create your brand even before you even touch graphics. It's important to get in touch with the foundation of what are your core values and how do you then translate those into graphics. So I am a mompreneur. If I were to say, what am I trying to get back to this fall? It's just some sense of normalcy, right? I have two young children. They're only 5 and 6, so they keep me quite busy, and having them being homeschooled was definitely a challenge. Working evenings was a challenge. Everything seemed to be a challenge. So I'm just really looking forward to having a little bit more of a routine, some stability, and going back to doing some networking and sort of those activities that we know always help us to grow our business. Yeah, so although I worked in corporate world before, I'm very happy to be working for myself as a boutique agency, because then I can help other entrepreneurs and really build their brand image. So what can you expect from this workshop? We're going to go through 7 key brand assets that all businesses should have in their digital library. So I'm releasing this one-on-one as like a tip, but really it's just making sure that each asset I talk about is inside your library, and maybe your library doesn't look like a traditional library, and we will talk about that as well. Towards the end of my presentation, I will introduce you into my newest product, which is called the Brand Portal, which helps you to keep all your assets secure and organized and very easy to access. And you even get a simple brand style guide. It's all offered to you on my website. And then there'll be a special offer that we can talk about. There's a couple. One of them is very specific to the ladies today, to you ladies. So we all love our book library, I can say, pretty much. I would say most people are sort of, ooh, love my books, or love the fact that I can keep my own library. I would say the main reason is because it tends to have all our favorites in there, and we can group them by like subjects or themes, or, if somebody says, on a book swap, then you know exactly where you can go find what they're talking about. And so again, it's usually very accessible, and it's so great to have that knowledge at your fingertips. It makes you feel, I would say, sometimes a little bit more empowered about something. But my question today for everyone is, do you have a well thought out digital library that you can simply access, and how that pertains to your business, so that how do you keep your brand identity intact? And is it as organized as the sort of home library or this hobby library that you may have? I think we take for granted sometimes that we have our logo here, and maybe I think I use this brand font sometimes, but then sometimes I use this one, and okay, this is my color palette, but you know what? Sometimes I'm a little off. So because I'm just, I'm rushing and I got to get this out. So I want to address those kind of things. And although this may be something you've heard before, I just want to make sure we walk through it so that it systematically all falls into the bucket of what's inside your brand. Okay, is that all making sense, ladies? Yeah, I had not. Excellent. So tip number 1, logos. And you can see right off to the side, I have my little hand cursor moving over my logos, and I have all treatments, all versions, all iterations, whatever word you want to use. All logos should definitely be housed in your digital library. Again, is your digital library your computer? Is it on a backup system? Is it on another hard drive? I'm not sure where you house things, and that's exactly why we'll talk about that in the end. But you should have all your logos and all your treatments. The next thing is your tagline, and how does it relate to your logo? So it's not enough really to just say, oh, here's my tagline, Graphic Conductors, crafting creative solutions for your entrepreneurial spirit, which, by the way, is also my mission statement. So it doubles up for me because I wanted my mission statement to be so simple I could repeat it like a tagline. That's also another sort of little side tip. It's good to have very simple mission and vision statements that you can recite, you can use in an elevator speech, that you can use as a conversation starter. So again, sort of as a side note. But you also should keep track of how do you use your tagline in relationship to your logo. Is it always placed the way mine is, for instance, where it's literally side by side? Is it always placed perhaps underneath? Is it always not placed together so that you always have the logo as a standalone, but on the other side of whatever you're using, your business card, a postcard, it's on the other side. Maybe it's treated more as a graphic than it is as typography. So just note that, so that when you do need to use your tagline to promote something and to actually be able to use it again in a graphic way, you're not sort of lost for how should it look, again, right beside your logo. The next tip would be your submarks or a favicon. And so there's so many digital words out there nowadays with the social media, right? There's avatars, favicons, there's just so many of these words jumping around. And basically, we all know with social media, you need to have a condensed version, a simplified version of your logo, something that still echoes back to your logo. The main logo should still be there. There should be some very obvious signals to the main logo, but it definitely should be simplified. And as you can see in my example, I've taken my crown, which obviously is a key icon for me. I've taken the sevens, which typically are represented as they're my L's, but they're reversed sevens, sorry. And of course the word design, so that it encapsulates the fact that that's what I'm doing. I am a designer. There's also opportunities sometimes where you can even simplify further, which is why I just have my crown. And there are times where that's all the space you have, right? We know that we're not given a lot of space on some of the channels and some of the opportunities we have to advertise digitally for things like a profile pic or a favicon. And so that was your tip number 3. Moving on, tip number 4, brand colors. I cannot emphasize this enough, ladies. It is not a great idea to be inconsistent with your brand colors. It just throws people off when they see that one day you're using pink and blue and brown, for instance, like myself. And it is good to have more than one, so that you do have some variation. You don't need things to always be too static, too generic. But all of a sudden you throw in purple, just because you felt like purple was fun. Purple's fun. It means such and such this month. Well, thematically, yes, you can have another color in there, but when it refers to anything to do with your brand, stay true to your brand colors and make sure that you don't switch out your logo, for instance, that should have been pink and blue to the purple because of the theme that's going on, as an example. It's also really great if you could know what the color breakdowns are, which is why I've listed mine here. And you will see further how else I document that for you when I introduce the brand portal. So knowing these breakdowns really helps people like your partners who are printers, who are other relationships that need to know this kind of breakdown. So yes, stick to your brand colors, please, please, please. Tip number 5. This is one of my favorite because, of course, it's very visual. And I think it's the one that people tend to forget to house inside their digital library. They feel like, well, I just need to go find a new image, which is true. We do need new images as well. We do need to, stay fresh and stay current. But there is value in creating a little image library that you can, of course, go back to when necessary and say, you know what, that is just the perfect image that I could use for this next event, for this next promotion, for this next whatever it may be. And you can see my little, again, very small gallery at this point, what it is that I feel is our key images. And of course, for me, it's definitely being able to communicate and personify my crown, and how is it that the crown gets used for different instances of whatever I'm promoting. It can be something that even has a little bit more depth. Again, it's all about how much you want to organize your textures and your core images. But a core image does not have to be everything under the sun, because like I said, there are times where we do need to search for a new image because we just want something that is more lifestyle or something that has a different background to match, again, what it is that we're trying to promote, or what type of event that may be coming up. Tip number 6, brand fonts. This is also a near and dear to my heart because of the use of colors and fonts. Again, not varying those too much so that there's not an inconsistency in how people see you. For me, as an example, I just have 2 fonts. So they're called Favicon and Myriad, but how I use them definitely varies. So sometimes a headline, you will only see a headline in this font, but there are times where there's opportunities to do the text in the additional font that I've mentioned. And again, this just allows for some that consistency that everyone is looking for, that sort of, once you see it more than 3 times, it starts to ring a bell. And every time you keep switching font, just because you think a new font looks great, it just does create a little bit of that inconsistency that you don't want when it comes to your brand. You can always do that on another fun note or another sort of fresh note when it has a little bit more value, and perhaps you're doing some co-promotion with someone else. So then it gives you more opportunity to do those kinds of things. And number 7, the brand style guide. I think this is so crucial for small businesses because we run fast. We have lots to do. We have lots of hats. And when we don't have our own little sort of mini Bible, I'd like to call it, something that you like to follow, something that you just don't stray from, it is easy to make these inconsistencies. It is easy to not have the logo in the right color or the right format, or have it all come together, like we were saying, how you use it, and be able to be 100% foolproof with your brand identity always being intact. So those were the 7 tips. I'm going to take you into my brand portal, and after this, I will have time for questions. How are we doing for time, Christine? We're good?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Oh yeah, we're like, it's only 1:05.
Okay, perfect. Am I going too fast? I know it's a lot of some of this you may know, so I just wanted to make sure we're covering all the tips before we had any questions.
Does anyone have any questions about the 7 aspects or the 7 key elements of your library? Just a quick question. How many of you have a branding guide? Okay, yeah. And how many of you actually have a professional logo? Or sorry, a logo. It doesn't. Okay. And how many of you are actually using consistency in your, I'm going to say social media, because I think everyone has social media. And, once you get that consistency down, I know a lot of you said newsletters is the next thing you want to work on. You can just implement all of this branding right into your newsletters, create the templates, and it will make it so much easier for you to send off your content every week, bi-weekly, monthly. Did any of the information that Marta shared, did it surprise you? Did you have any aha moments with any of the content shared so far? Oh, 2 hands, Marianne, and then Judy. Go ahead, Marianne.
Yeah, I'm not going to say an aha moment, but something that I read about not long ago, and Marta, you touched on, is the textures and core images. I never really thought about that. of just having some set core images that I, used, or elements of them that I used. And I find that's really made a big difference when I'm putting together my social media, is having that standard, 10 or 12 images that I use intact or pieces from.
Excellent. Yes. And like I said, you can rotate those. You can decide,
Mm-hmm.
after the span of 6 months, or is it a full quarter? You can decide when is it time to refresh some of those, but agreed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, we want our lives to be easy, but
Mm-hmm.
it's not just easy. It's also just being very clear on what your brand looks like and how you want to be perceived. Right. So.
Yeah.
Judy, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, yeah, that there wasn't really a big aha moment for me, but it is always good to have it sort of
Reminder.
yes, remind it. And like, I do a lot of these things for my clients, but for myself, I find I haven't, it's like the newsletter. I will do a newsletter for other people, but I haven't really done one for myself yet. And I do like the idea of having the library, which I do for the clients, because you can repurpose things all the time and kind of just keep reusing them, change it up a little bit. So yeah, the library is a very, very good thing to have, or the portal.
Excellent.
If I might add as well, like just to piggyback onto what Mary Ann said, having those core images that really represent and reflect who you are, your voice, your personality, your persona is so important. I once was working with a client who said, why is it that men are following me? My ideal client that I want to work with is women. And I said, well, let's go take a look at your social and see what's happening there. And the pictures were of football fields and male hiking mountains. It was very masculine photography, that imagery that she was using in her background. And she didn't realize that as much as the message in the text, that imagery really does, have an impact on how your message and your brand is interpreted, and who it may appeal to. So definitely. Carolyn, you had your hand raised there.
Just the one thing that I've noticed, that this is on my mind, this makes perfect sense, but from one place to another, fonts aren't always the same, and I don't know how you ever remember the specifics of your colors, and I'm sure there's an official way to do it, but I'm working with the themes and so on. But yeah, the fonts, that was specifically, it was like, well, it's my best guess at what looks similar to what the website put together, and so on. I built on Squarespace, and gives you a nice little package to build with. But
did you have a developer who built your website?
No, I did it.
Oh, okay. So then the fonts that you chose came with Squarespace. You can actually buy fonts, and they're relatively inexpensive. Mm-hmm. Like when my 2 logos ago, they used a certain font that I didn't have, and it was $20. And then you could get I think it's TFF, Marta can correct me.
Yeah.
And then you can upload it to whatever programs you're using. So for example, if you use Canva, you can, and you have the pro version, you can upload your font into the program. And then you can also, again, just speaking from a Canva perspective, I'm sure Marta will go into more detail on this, because that's the graphic design program I use. If you're using Pro, you can actually set everything, your logos, your colors, like the hex codes, the font. So it's automatically built in as the standard color theme and template elements for you. I don't know, do you use Canva, Carolyn?
I do. I don't have the Pro version, but I learned from you, so.
Well, I'm sure we're going to get some good stuff here from Marta too.
Thanks. So, and yeah, just to finish that quick conversation for Carolyn, you can definitely, there are many web safe fonts, and that's what a platform like Squarespace will do for you. They present you with all the fonts that when are used on the web, they render correctly on other people's screens without asking for a font substitution, or, it doesn't look right when people read it. So me as a graphic designer and other graphic designers, should I say my Creative Conductor title, we will always try to do is match those kind of fonts to something that we know is web safe. So even if I'm using something in my print design, I will try always to make sure there is a web safe version that looks, if not bang on, then it's so similar that, you know, many fonts do have sort of a sister brother font to them, right? So just to say that. So yeah, I wanted to jump in and talk a little bit about the brand portal and this tool and what's the experience and why did I create it? So what was the reason behind it? And I found that over the years, it happened so often that I couldn't ignore it anymore. The amount of times that my clients would email me and ask me for their logo in such and such a format. Ask me for, what was that color that I used again? What was that font? All the tips we just went through. There wasn't a tip that I can actually say that they didn't ask me about. And definitely one of the major pitfalls is that they did not have a brand guide and were not asking for one or didn't see the value in one, I guess, back in the day, let's call it that. But now that everyone is so hands-on with their own brand and it is so really being their own, I would say, leader and sort of cheerleader, you know, getting everything done as much as you can, which, you know, is a tall order. But because we are so hands-on, we have to be able to then have these assets at our fingertip. So I created the brand portal. Once you log on to my website, the first thing you're going to see is this very first screen here, which tells you, you know, it's new and check it out. You can start now. Click the button. It'll take you to a little bit of an introduction on, you know, what does it mean? What is a brand portal? And it goes on to explain that this is the place where I'm going to help you keep your brand assets safe and your identity intact, again, so that there's no inconsistencies we've been talking about. We don't want that. And also because you want to be able to house it somewhere, like we were talking about our home library, where you can just reach for it on your computer, obviously not on the shelf, but you can just literally log in. It's a password protected page. Everyone gets their own page or pages, depending on how much content we have to upload for you. And you will be able to find what you need. Like it's such a simple concept, yet it is very useful. And again, it was just me trying to answer the need of how many emails I would get on a regular, and it wasn't different clients. It was many times the same repeat client. You just give it 6 months, they would lose their logo or forget this. And again, emails become very hard to track because of the back and forth of communication. They get so long and truncated. So the brand portal operates, like I said, just as a tool for all my clients who come in, access their own page. You'll see off to the right side, there's a little snapshot of what one of the pages would look like when you sign in. You would see your primary logo, and very clearly you can click on the button. Do you need it for print? Do you need it for digital? What does that mean? So for print, it has to be a version, or you're looking for a version that once you use this logo and it prints, it will print clearly. There will be no bit mapping, no jagged edges, no anything that just does not look clear and crisp. An example of that is people who tend to use their digital logo, so something that you use on your website, on your social, on anything that of course is only seen on a screen, and then they send it to someone who needs to blow it up and print them an awesome pull-up banner for their next show. And then they're so disappointed because their logo looks not clean, not crisp, just terrible, quite frankly, right? It looks not of the standard and the quality of their brand. So I make sure that depending on what you upload to me, I create versions of what each of the logo iterations need to have. So is it a print or a digital, for all the 7 things we talked about, with the exception of core images, because those are just images. They're not graphics, and they don't need to be what's called vectorized, as we just talked about, to make the edges smooth and crisp. So along in the portal, you will see that there's the little mini guide right here off to the left as well. And you can click on that button and there you go. I would have customized a simple, easy to follow, usually 2 pages, no more, guide that you will again, you can keep on your own, refer to it, but it is always there. This is the key thing, that even if you download something and you lose it, because let's be honest, things happen. Like I said, we're all very busy. You can still always come back to the portal, and this is your safe place where things are being held for you. Once you sign up, you do get a welcome letter that explains, what are the next steps. And I'm not going to go through all those details because that is part of the process. But we do walk you through what to expect. And again, what is involved from your perspective, what you need to give to me or to my team. And then once we are ready to upload everything for you, we send you, of course, your password and whatnot. And I like to call us the brand cops because we're trying to be that consistent and that, I guess, set in stone about exactly what you need for your business. So that's a quick overview of the brand portal and why I created the tool. And again, it's so important to keep your look cohesive, and so that there is no, oh, there we go. There is no room for people to wonder, who are you and what do you stand for? So I know we've already done some questions, so I'm not sure if there's any more. And then the last thing I was going to share was an offer. So I can open it back up for questions if that makes sense. We're at 1:17, so I think we're still doing good.
I have a question. I'm not sure if it's related, but I know this is more of the visual branding. I'm wondering if does something exist for copy as well? So for instance, if you have certain like language that you want to use and use the same language, is there like a guideline for that? I don't know if anyone knows if that exists.
I think what you're asking, Maria, and just correct me if I'm wrong, you're asking, is there a way to standardize or make sure consistently you have the same messaging, like the same tone and the same, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, and wording, yeah, something like that.
So from what I would recommend is, so from the get-go, you work with a copywriter who will understand just the way you would work with a graphic designer, who will understand what is the goal, what is the messaging, and will professionally craft those messages for you. You can, have them sort of become a library of message. These are the 5 headlines you can use here. This is the kind of messaging you would, no different than when you craft your bio, right? Or when you craft sort of some of our networking things that we have to have, which is our we like to call them the elevator speeches or whatnot. And mission statements, vision statements, those are all kind of the same exercise. The difference, of course, is with messaging, you just have to be flexible enough that you want to be able to have it apply for different things. Like we were talking about themes or calendar events. But yeah, a copywriter would definitely help you get off to on the right start, just to get that proper tone. Because again, one of the things I ask if I can take a step back, one of the things I ask my clients is define your brand in 3 words. That's part of the branding exercise to get going. And if I were to tell you mine are creative, guide, and fun, I'm just going to throw that in there. Well, then my tone has to reflect that even in my messaging, not just in my graphics, right? Especially what I say has to then match the graphics. So that's why I'm saying a copywriter would definitely help you to get that started. And then once you have this, you could always add it to your library. I don't specifically request people do that because I feel like that's something that people don't have and they develop it as they go. But yeah, I hope does that answer? I don't know if there's anything else.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's like a guideline too, as you have your brand guideline. I wonder if the same thing exists for the language.
Yeah, and I would say it can. It can, and it would, as long as you align yourself with somebody who can help you to define what will your language be. Does it need to be more fun? Does it need to be a little more corporate? Does it need to be a little more like? There's definite words we can use that puts words into buckets. So once you devise that, then you can sort of create your own little guide that says, okay, this is the style of writing that I use. I'm not whimsical. I am
Yeah.
this way, right? So does that help? I don't know. Christine, do you have any other comments
I
on
was
that?
just going to say, a couple of months ago started working with a new client who owns a brokerage, and the brokerage is a part of a large company. And I did ask for the style guide, and wow, I could not believe what I got. Usually people are like, style guide, huh? And I'm creating it for them as we go. But yeah, it was quite extensive. And the style guide actually did include graphics and imagery and a description of how to write their key messages. So I forget what it was called, but I can look it up and just give you the title of it. Maybe having the title would allow you to find some kind of like instructions on how to create your own. But I think Marta's right. I mean, I don't think you start at that point. I think it evolves. And you're probably at that stage right now, Maria, where you're wanting to make things easier for you. So creating your own little, like a library for yourself on key messages that emit your, mission, vision, statement, kind of core values is a good idea. But who has time to do that? No, just kidding. There you go, Marta. There's another offering for you.
Yeah, and and I'll wrap up by saying for you, Maria, I've definitely seen the style guides that Christine is talking about, and they're usually more geared for the larger companies. That makes sense, right? Because they have sort of more people, more resources, more everything that has to all abide by it. And it's so easy to break a rule when you have too many people that don't have something to follow. But they are extensive, and I do find them a bit more cumbersome to use, if I can use that word, for small businesses, because they're not an easy guide to go to. And then people get a little overwhelmed and just like, oh, I don't know, I said this about that headline, but then this about that. So my goal is always to simplify for small businesses. And as long as you're being consistent and you're staying true to your 3 brand words, then you're pretty much on the money most of the time.
I actually really appreciated getting it from them and did take the time to look through it. And I pulled out 4, let's call them taglines, but I use those repeatedly with every social media post for this client. It is added, and it feels good to me. Like just reinforcing that message about who they are and what they do, how they help. I feel comfort myself using it, actually. So
yeah, I love that word, Christine, reinforce. That's exactly what your brand assets will do for you. It'll constantly reinforce who you are, what you stand for, how you look, all those really important branding things.
Anybody else have any questions? I have a couple of things. Yeah, Judy?
Okay, so I guess I've always been using folders. So I know you have this portal. So what's the difference then? Like, I don't really know if would I need to go to something like that, because maybe because I've always worked with bigger companies, they've always had portals anyway. So that's where I copied and did the same thing. So now whenever I have a client, I do different folders. There'll be my logos folder, my graphics folder, and then the graphics one will go into different topics or themes. And then, and even what Maria was saying about words, I actually have a folder of just using Microsoft Word. So, so posts that I've done for different platforms, I actually throw them in if I like them, because I may repurpose them later, for that client or for another client even. Sometimes I go, oh, there was something I wrote for that client. I'm going to go look in that folder. So I do have all these different folders for each client. So is that sort of the same thing as what you're doing, Marta, with your portal?
Yes, it is similar in the sense that you have started the first step to being organized. You've actually taken something that belongs in a certain category. It's only a logo. It goes in the logo folder. It's only a graphic an image. It goes in the image folder. You'd be surprised how many people do not organize their things that way, though. And not in a judgment way. I'm just saying it just doesn't come second nature to them, or they don't have the time. They need someone to help them to organize that. So that's why I keep getting these requests from my clients saying, I just can't find this version of my logo again. I just don't know what I did with that image. I'm just not sure about my tagline.
Marta, I have one client as well. you're like every quarter, it's like, oh, can you send me this my logo so I can send it to the guy who's doing my postcards? I'm like, oh my goodness. But yeah, some people don't have your skill set, Judy, with that. You know?
That's right. So Judy, you're like well graduated in the first step to organization, which is great. Some people aren't. And like I said, because people are not always organized, doesn't come second nature, whatever the reason, then this is a place on a cloud for all intents and purposes that they can go to all the time. And like I said, it is password protected, so it's safe. Not that you're putting anything out there that has your credit card on it, but still, I would not want people to feel like anyone just can go in and download your logo. So I made sure it was password protected, and it just helps people feel that reassurance that when I need to double check something about my brand, I got my style guide in there as well. That was another key reason why I created that. It was just, there's just too many opportunities for the inconsistency of how the brand was looking. But yeah, the folders is the first step, but then people seem to not organize the folders well, or they're just not accessible to them all the time. Like, you know, you travel and your client emails you and you're like, oh no, what do you mean you need your logo ASAP? Okay, well, here you go. Go onto the portal and you can download it, right? So it's about ease of use as well.
I was just gonna share a couple of pointers, maybe tips as well, if it's okay. You know, I'm a big Canva proponent. Like I love that app. It's to me the graphic design app for non-graphic designers. But there is a Canva page that will actually allow you to upload a photo, and then it'll tell you the hex code for that pieces or the elements inside that photo. So sometimes people have had their logos done for them, like, oh, it was done 5 years ago and I'm no longer speaking with that person. They're no longer in business. I just tell people to go to Canva color generator and then pull it up and then upload the photo, and it comes up with as close as it can to the color with the color code. So if anyone is not sure, this is a little tip for you to help you find the matching color. The other thing I was going to say is that when you are using imagery in your social media or websites, my suggestion is get your own library. You know, take your own photographs. If you can afford it, obviously there's a professional element to them and it may cost too much money, but iPhones are really great. And I love portrait mode. So you might actually be able to shoot some of your own images and photos to use for your own backgrounds. If not, there are a lot of great commercial-free websites that where you can find images. And what you can do is, let's say you use blue. Let's say blue is in your background, or teal or aquamarine. You can actually go to these websites like Unsplash or Pixels. Another one that I love is Pixabay, just to name a couple. And you can actually type in like blue background, aquamarine background, and you can look through the graphics to see, you know, which one matches your brand identity, you know, or feel. So there's a lot of resources that you can go to get free imagery that, you know, even if you want like a clock, because the messaging is about deadlines or timing, you could say blue clock, right? And create or download free commercial use images that you can then use on social that match or closely match your branding. I don't know if Marta has any other suggestions. This is what I would call for the DIYers, right?
That's a great suggestion. And thank you for saying that, Christine, because it's a big one. That's exactly how a lot of us create our libraries, is going on the online libraries that offer us the ability to sometimes download for free or at a low cost. So yeah, and I love all of those libraries that you mentioned too. They're really great, depending on the field that you want. Like Unsplash can be very editorial. So yeah, it depends on the style and the tone you want.
I don't know if anybody else has any free commercial websites that they're using that they love. Those are my 3 go-to. if anybody has any newer ones, I'm interested in learning more, because sometimes, even though they have hundreds of thousands, sometimes, I'm doing, I can be doing anywhere from 40 to 80 posts per week. So it can get a little boring using the same source, but yeah. All right. So that's it. Those are the couple tips I wanted to add. Thank you for letting me share. Go ahead, Marta.
Thank you. So the last thing I just wanted to mention is I do have an offer today. There's two offers, but the first one that I've have written down here is it's special pricing, because I've reduced the price to 50% off, and it is called a branding buzz session. Christine and I have actually done one together. That was lovely. It was quite a while ago, wasn't it, Christine?
Yeah.
It was lovely in many ways, but also was great because Christine, we talked about the MAWB brand actually, and because it's so well thought out, it was a very nice sort of walk through to things that I think Christine already knew she was doing well, but it was a great sort of checklist, right? Some of us don't have something that's been so well thought out. Maybe we're just starting out, or maybe we're just rebranding ourselves. So we're not really sure if all the pieces are connecting yet. And is the puzzle coming together or is it not? So I like to offer this branding buzz session so that we can kind of talk about what is the buzz around your brand? What are people saying? What are your clients saying? How do you feeling about it? Do you feel like it's the right tone and message, or is it time to rebrand? All those kind of questions will come up, and it's just a 30-minute session, but you'll be surprised how much we can cover in those 30 minutes, because in advance you would send me a link to your website, any kind of information on your assets that help me to understand what does your brand look like, and then we just go through them all and we just discuss, how does it connect to your brand, or is it not connecting, and my professional opinion as to why or why not. So like I said, it's just, it's a very special offer right now. It's usually $75, but I'm offering it at 50% off for that 30-minute session. If you're interested, please contact me. I think you have my website. You can drop me a line on my contact form. And then the second one is just a little bit of an extra information on the brand portal. I didn't talk about the cost of it before, so just so it's clear that it is $15 a month to be on the portal. That guarantees you the first year, is 20% off for your first year subscription. So it's an introductory offer, and you can see what I've itemized there for you. So the stores, the organization, all the different formats, and the mini brand guide. It may expand to be other things, to be honest, ladies. I'm just trying to see what the needs really are. And unfortunately, I created this during COVID, so I haven't really unleashed it to the world as much as I would have loved to. But it's kind of my little baby that's waiting to walk. It's just crawling right now. So, so I'm hopeful that at least what's in there will satisfy the initial needs of small businesses. And then if there's additional needs and, listen to the feedback, that I can always expand certain categories and add more areas or opportunities for other assets. But those are the key ones that we talked about today that would definitely be in there. So that's it for me today, ladies. I hope you found that helpful. I hope you found that, again, like I said, it might have been not new for you, but a good reminder, a good, I think we all need little checklists at times, especially with how busy we all are. Leaving out the fact that COVID life makes things even more busy. So I hope that this helped you feel a little bit more on brand, or at least what you should have in your digital library. And that's it.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Marta. Definitely. We all need this reminder constantly moving forward. Sometimes we probably can get a little bored, and then we can go off track, and all of a sudden we don't realize that we're losing our brand identity, our online identity. So definitely a good reminder. Thank you so much. If anyone has any questions, I'm sure Marta would be open to having hearing from you. And as she said, I did partake in that buzz session, like a hugely beneficial for me. Just she asked these questions. I was like, oh, interesting. It made me think. So I would recommend it for $37.50. It's a great value to be able to chat with someone and just get some feedback who is in the, you know, that's her profession, her expertise. So if anybody has anything further to add, please feel free now. If not, our session is done. Thank you, ladies, so very much. We have one more Lunch and Learn session left. That is next week with Carla Smith. Marta, as always, a pleasure. And thank you. Marta was not feeling well today, but I want to thank Marta so very much for putting on the lipstick and presenting today. That was great.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Right. Thanks, Marta.
Bye.
Thanks, Christine. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.